Has this ever happened to you? You and your boyfriend are apartment hunting for quite some time. It's a post-COVID world. Rents are kind of crazy. You finally find a nice little apartment building, townhouses. They're a little old, but the rent is super reasonable. So you move in and you have a wonderful few years. You have amazing neighbors. Everything is great until your neighbors downstairs move out and the new neighbors that move in immediately start chain smoking inside all day long. And your peace is completely ruined. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Monica. I have a main channel here on YouTube that focuses on makeup and beauty, but over here in the vlog channel, I talk about my life and anything outside of the beauty sphere. My husband and I have been living through this apartment nightmare since January of this year. Right now when I'm filming it, it is finally August. We're apartment hunting and I wanted to take some time to document what we went through and what actually works to help eradicate a smoke smell in your apartment. Because when this first happened to me, I was Googling, I was researching, I looked everywhere, and there was nowhere could I find like a step-by-step guide of if you're dealing with smoke from a neighbor, here's XYZ what helps. And so I'm making it now. That being said, if you found this video because you're dealing with smoke from a neighbor, please go ahead and skip to this timestamp right here. I break down exactly what I recommend day by day, week by week. I will not feel bad if you go ahead and skip to that timestamp, find those recommendations, buy those products. You can come back and watch the rest of the video later. I will also have full timestamps down below. The way this video is going to be broken up is I'm first going to go through the entire story of what we experienced this year because I documented everything. I'm going to go through my recommendations for what I found worked the best as far as products, air purifiers, spray ozones, everything. I tested out so much stuff because I deal with migraines and I've been sick most of this year dealing with the smoke from downstairs. So that's it for the intro. Let's go ahead and jump into what happened to us this year. So if you see me looking down here, I have my laptop pulled up with the document that I've been keeping since January just to keep myself straight. But this all started the week of January 15th of 2024, literally 2 weeks after we renewed our 1-year lease in this apartment. Sorry if you hear squeaking, that's our corgi. Literally 2 weeks after we re-signed our 1-year lease, new neighbors moved in downstairs and everything went to shit. For a little bit of context, we live in some pretty old townhouses. Each townhouse has 4 apartments, 2 on the top floor, 2 on the bottom floor. We live in the top right unit. These were the bottom right unit tenants. So when they moved in, they immediately began chain smoking. I'm going to say they because at this point we had no idea who the tenants were. We had not seen them. We had not met them yet. So they began chain smoking. It was all day, all night. It was nuts. I was kind of losing my mind because I didn't know how they could be home all day and afford rent. And I immediately got sick. So I got migraines. My migraines were triggered. I was nauseous. The first week was the worst. I've never had migraines so bad. I've never been so nauseous. I've never been so sick. It was horrible. So the 2 areas of our apartment that were like the worst, as part of the smoke smell was the stairwell. So we're on the 2nd floor. So the stairwell up to our apartment was the worst. And then the bathroom smelled horrific at all times. And that stairwell leads into our kitchen. So our kitchen was smelling really badly of smoke. Our bathroom smelling really badly of smoke. Thankfully, the only room that was kind of really like sealed off was my office, which is the bedroom right here. That's probably the best spot along with the bedroom, which is just right behind this bookshelf right here. So it was really like towards the center of the townhouse was the worst of the smell. And then the further out we got, the better it got. So for the first few weeks, my husband and I would sometimes see a man like walk out of the apartment and catch an Uber and then like come back really, really late at night. So we thought he was the tenant. And we would just try, if we saw him outside, we would try to like go out, say hi, see if we could get a hold of him. The first few weeks, he was like elusive. He was like avoiding all the neighbors. And it wasn't just us saying that. I asked a couple of people around. They also said they were totally avoiding them. So during this first week, when I was horrifically sick and losing my mind, we made a lot of bad mistakes. We bought way too many things. We spent like $800 trying to purchase things to help mitigate the smell. Because reminder, we just renewed our lease. So if we were going to break our lease and move, to break this lease and to pay last month's rent at a new place, it would be around $10,000. We live in northern New Jersey. It cost a lot of money here. So we could do it, but then like our emergency fund would be totally wiped out. So we knew we didn't want to do that. So The other option was, how the heck do we live here for the next 10 months until we can move? So the first few things, we bought these Febreze air freshener can things. They do not work. Do not waste your money. They made me even sicker because it wasn't just, it didn't get rid of the smoke smell, it made it like a flowery smoke smell, which was almost worse in a way. We had one Dyson air fan that my husband has had for like 6 years now, and it has an air purifier in it. So we bought a table to put that right by the stairwell, and we moved the Dyson over there to have that air purifier just help filter out some of the air over there. And that worked out pretty well. We also purchased 2 ozone, they're technically water filters. You can use them for air as well. First, we purchased one just for the stairwell, and that helped a ton. We ended up ultimately purchasing another one for the bathroom, because even though it was a smaller space, it smelled so bad we needed another one in there. So those ozone machines really do help. We also bought some small ozone machines that you can like plug in to the outlet directly. And those I felt were a little bit finicky, because I feel like they're only supposed to be used like occasionally, whereas we needed something that would run like almost constantly, and those, I burnt out like 5 of those just in the last 8 months. So they weren't great for longevity, but for like a few weeks they worked pretty well. I also bought those like charcoal odor absorbing packets, gel things. Those also did nothing. Don't waste your money. Thankfully, since they moved in January, we could actually open all the windows, because what we could tell is that they were smoking inside and they were not opening any windows at all. So for like the first few weeks, it was like below 0 temperatures. I had all the windows open just because that was the only way to like air out the smoke. And if I kept all the windows open, I would be freezing and bundled up, but I wasn't sick and I could breathe. So I gave it about a week. It wasn't getting any better because I was like, okay, well, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. You know, if they keep smoking after a week, I'm going to complain to the office. So I tried contacting the office. I emailed them and then I called them right after they were open. And I'm still a little bit salty about this, so hold on. So I talked to the leasing office because I had assumed, wrongfully so, that in 2024, no one would allow smoking inside. Right? Well, I was wrong. These buildings are so old and the management is so lax that essentially they said, yeah, the lease is vague on purpose, so they're allowed to smoke inside, but it's not supposed to affect anybody else. And they said, well, you can keep calling and complaining, but they have rights too. And that's what they kept saying to me. They kept saying they have rights too. They have every right to smoke inside. And I said, well, according to my lease, I have every right to enjoy my apartment without being sick all the time. And they said, yeah, so in that case, every time you call and complain, all we can do is ask them to open a window. Yeah. So I did that. I was like, okay, can you get them to open the windows? And they were like, sure, let's call them. And then I saw they opened the window this much. It was like 1 or 2 windows and they opened it this much, and they would open it for like 5 minutes and then close it. Yeah. So I knew complaining to my management office was a waste at that point. That was when I kind of lost all faith in this apartment unit. We were also looking at maybe switching to a different unit altogether, in a different building. But they said if we wanted to move, we would have to pay a fee of $500, and they would increase our rent by $300, which at that point we would be paying $2,300 for rent in an old building for 1 bedroom. And there's a chance that it could happen again because they allow smoking. So at that point, my husband and I were like, okay, no, we're not going to move. Well, when we do move, we're going to move out of this and into a brand new building. We're not going to stay in this apartment unit or any properties managed by this apartment complex, whatever, because it is like an umbrella corporation. They have many properties around the state. So we decided we would do our best to live through this, save up, like save as much money as we could until the end of the year, and then we would move. We planned to move in October because the fee to break the lease was like 3 months rent. And so if we saved up enough, we could move out of here in October, still finish out and pay November, December, and it would still be cheaper than breaking the lease, which is nuts when I think about it, but that was the plan. Okay, so in February, we found out a little bit more about the tenants downstairs. It turns out the tenant that smokes all day, she's retired, she is a grandmother, and the man we saw coming in and out was her grandson. He tends to crash here on the weekends, and then goes out to work, and then I don't know where he is during the week, but he tends to only stay here on the weekends. So the reason I was smelling the smoke all day, every day, while I'm working from home, is because she's retired, she's in her 90s, and she chain smokes. Hi, buddy. So even though they were opening their window like this much, obviously the smoke smell was still pretty bad. And through just like smelling the smoke and trying to figure out where it originated from, we found some large cracks on the stairs in our stairwell. We saw that like most of the smoke smell was coming out of there. And then in the bathroom, I didn't know exactly where it was coming from because it kind of smelled like all over the bathroom, which makes sense a lot later in the story when I find out why. But it smelled like the entire bathroom, which was an ashtray, which was terrible. We only have one bathroom, and so it just smelled horrific. So in order to try and like fill these gaps and help with that smell, we submitted a ticket to have maintenance come and seal the cracks in the stairs. And they just used like some clear caulk, and it was okay, not the best. I think the building was just old because like the stairs were separating a little bit, and so a few weeks afterwards it still smelled pretty bad. So that got us through February. We were still purchasing a bunch of new products, trying a bunch of stuff. At this point, the only thing that really helped was pure Lysol spray. We have radiators in our apartment, and the smell was also coming pretty badly from the radiators. So I was spraying down our radiators once a day with just a full coat of Lysol because it was the only thing that helped get rid of that smell until March. So March comes around and we see like an eviction notice get posted on the neighbor's door. And at first I was like, ooh, I wonder if like it's the smoke smell or if like maybe we're not the only neighbors affected by this, right? But nope. I took a picture. I'm obviously not going to show it here. I'm not doxing anybody. But they're getting evicted because they had not paid any rent since they moved in. Which, surprise, wow, tenants that don't care about their neighbors and don't care about the buildings and smoke inside, like they're not good tenants. Wow. Amazing. So anyway, we saw that they had eviction proceedings started against them. They had a court date for, I think it was like May. So we were just waiting at this point, but I had a little bit of hope. I was like, oh, if they get evicted, then maybe we don't have to deal with this the whole year. Right? Anyway, a few weeks later, still dealing with the smoke. It's getting a little bit worse because it's getting warmer. We're getting into spring. We're getting into summer. And the heat, it's just, I don't like heat. I'm definitely more of a winter person. And because of the heat and because of the bugs, we were getting to a point where I could no longer just air out the apartment because it got too hot. And so I had to keep all the windows closed, have our air conditioning on, and the smoke was just getting worse and worse. So anyway, April 11th comes around, and it's the first time I visually saw the neighbor downstairs. There were a few times throughout the last few weeks where I had convinced myself that, like, I don't think there's a grandmother. I think the guy is just lying, and I don't know how, but someone's down there smoking all day. But no, April 11th was the first time I saw her with my own eyes. There is a grandmother downstairs, and she does chain smoke. It was also around that time that I got confirmation that family members would come by to pick her up for doctor's appointments and pick her up to go grocery shopping and stuff, which is why sometimes the smell was worse some days than other days, because I think she had regular appointments on certain days, because it was driving me nuts that like there were certain days where the smell would be horrific and terrible, and then the other day it wouldn't be as bad. So I couldn't tell if the stuff I was using around the apartment was working, or I couldn't tell if maybe they just weren't home all the time. I'm not exaggerating when I said it drove me nuts. I work from home. I'm here all day. It was a nightmare. Pure nightmare. So it goes like this for a few more weeks. We got to a point where there are certain products around the house that were helping, like the ozone machines. We got another air purifier that helped a ton. It was the Levoit air purifier. We've been running the air purifiers basically full blast. We've been running the ozone machines full blast. Incense was helping a ton, and we have a big stairwell, so I've been lighting incense in the stairwell because that's the only thing, like scent-wise, that could actually mask the smell of the smoke. So doing all of that, we were getting through the few months, saving every penny we could so that we could move in the fall. And during this time, I am of course doing research into New Jersey state laws, and I believe, and I'm not a lawyer, so I don't 100% know, but from what I read, I believe that if a housing complex accepts any HUD funds, then they're supposed to comply with the 2006 Clean Air New Jersey Act. No, it's called the New Jersey 2006 Smoke-Free Air Act, which they're supposed to ban smoking from the apartment building. And it was in May that I got confirmation from some neighbors that quite a few people around here are on Section 8. And I'm not saying that to, like, what's the word? Discriminate against people that accept Section 8. I think it's a great program that helps a lot of people. But because this complex accepts Section 8 funds, they should not be allowing smoking inside. Like, I believe that's the trade-off. If you receive Section 8 funds, you're supposed to not allow people to smoke inside. That being said, we made the decision to not report anything or go any further with this until we have moved out of the complex, just because we weren't sure whether or not they were going to retaliate. So we got through May, it's June now, and in June, the neighbor downstairs, she was complaining that there was a leak coming from the ceiling. but we had maintenance come into our apartment several times. None of the sinks were leaking, none of the washer dryer wasn't leaking, nothing was leaking. And so they had to come in and out, and then they finally found out that in our bathroom, and I have pictures here, the grout wore away. And so every time we were getting out of the shower, every time I mopped the bathroom, every time anything got on the floor, it was leaking through the grout onto her ceiling. Lovely. Well, anyway, in order to fix that, maintenance came in and they re-grouted our entire bathroom and they resealed all the edges. Now, after that, the smoke smell in our bathroom dramatically decreased. It, like, night and day difference. I could still smell smoke, but it was nowhere near how bad it was before. So all those little holes in the grout was where all the smoke was coming up from. Wild. Wild. So that brings us to around current day, June, August 2024, where we actually began apartment hunting in earnest. We've toured several buildings at this point. We have our final tour sometime next week when I'm filming this, and we are excited and looking forward to getting the hell out of here. So that has been the story so far. It's been terrible. And again, like I said, I'm excited to get the heck out of here. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention this towards the beginning, but in like January through March, on the days when the smoke smell was like horrific, I got to a point where I put a little bit of Tiger Balm on my chin and I would put a face mask on, and that would just help me because I could not like stand, because it was giving me a migraine. Like every time she would smoke, it was like every 30 minutes, more smoke, migraine, sickness, nausea, constantly. Okay, so I'm going to briefly go through current day what has helped us the most before I go into the timeline of what I recommend if you are in the situation. So number one, the ozone machines. I, at this point, really would only recommend the big ozone machines. They are a little pricey. They're like $70 each, but everything I do recommend is cheaper than moving, which is what our idea was. So I have two of those ozone machines, one in our entryway and then one in the bathroom. I still have a few of the small ozone machines, but like I said earlier, I tend to burn through those. They don't last as long as the big ozone machines. The big ozone machine in the kitchen, we've had since January. It's lasted, it still works, and it's on almost 24/7. It's amazing. The one in the bathroom is only like 3 or 4 months old, but still doing really, really good. The air purifiers, the Dyson purifier and the Levoit purifier help a ton. Really, really recommend those. The incense in the stairwell helps a lot. And then just our AC units. We have an AC unit in the office and an AC unit in the bedroom. And then we have a tower fan right up here that is also almost always on. The name of the game is airflow. If you have air that is stagnant, you're just going to get more smoke and it's going to affect you more. I have it set up so that like we constantly have airflow and it's going in an air purifier through an AC unit, through the tower fan to another air purifier, because the more airflow that you have, the more air purifiers that you have, the better your air quality is going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and drop in here a video of me dealing with a really, really bad smoke day. So today is shaping out to be a pretty bad smoke day from downstairs. So I thought I would go ahead and show you everything I have in place for days like this. So I have the air conditioning on. It's on fan right now just to get air circulation going. I've got our tower fan on, baby. I also have our air filter. That's a Dyson air purifier. So it's pointing this way to that. So we get airflow throughout the apartment. I also have this air purifier. I'm gonna put this on high and it's got a smoke filter inside of it. In the bathroom, I have a little mini stick of incense going because the smell is worst in the stairwell and in the bathroom. I also have our small ozone plugins going. I have one here in the bathroom. I have one here in the doorway to the office right next to the bathroom. This one I actually have to replace, but I don't need it in here again because the smell isn't that terrible. Also the same over here. I have another ozone machine, but that one doesn't run all the time. It only runs for 5 minutes and I don't need it right now, so I'm not gonna turn it on. We have our air ionizer on right here next to the Levoit filter. I also have a fan blowing air into the kitchen just because it gets so warm in the kitchen. It helps. It also just helps with regular air circulation. We have our major ozone filter going into the stairwell. And then we've got incense in the stairwell as well. I use the full-size sticks in here. So just about time to put another one out. And last but not least, I have a fan here in the kitchen. It's actually been too hot to use it the last few days, but today it was a little bit cooler and we're getting thunderstorms, so I'm keeping it in here just to like exhaust air out. So it actually is on circulate right now. I'm gonna change it to exhaust. Every now and then, in particularly bad areas, I also spray some ozone. So I'm gonna spray this in the laundry room and also in the stairwell. It is a lot of little steps and can get annoying at times, but all of that together makes the smoke smell like a lot better, like legitimately a lot better. And throughout the day, I've got the ozone filters just going constantly. I'll replace the incense probably once an hour, and overall, a lot better. So that is what we've been doing the last few months. We only have about like 2 months left in this apartment, and then we can finally go. So, unfortunately, we were in like the worst case scenario where the smokers moved in like right after we renewed our lease. Obviously, the best thing to do if you are in a situation is move units if your apartment building doesn't like jack up your rent and charge you a fee in order to move. I would also check in with your apartment like management and see if you can get a deal on moving, especially if you have kids or if you have any disability or any illness that is covered by the ADA. Unfortunately, migraines are not covered by the ADA, but if I had asthma, if I had, you know, an actual disability, sickness, history of illness like that, then per the ADA, they would have had to move us with no fee. Also, if you have children and this happens to you, they should move you. This happened to another neighbor. A neighbor told me about it, that a neighbor was smoking weed, which again, for me, smelling weed doesn't trigger my migraines. I don't mind it at all. It's just the cigarettes. They were like the nastiest, closest to cigarettes that she could have smoked or being smoked. But anyway, so the neighbor was smoking weed. It's legal here in New Jersey, but because the woman upstairs had children, like they moved her, like no fee, no rent increase at all. They moved her because she had kids. Now we have no kids. We are child free. Neither of us have asthma or anything covered by the ADA. So we were screwed. Did I mention we were also paying about $2,000 in rent to live here? Yeah. So it's finally time to jump into my recommendations for what you should do if you are ever in a situation like this. Also, what I wish I could have gone back in a time machine and told myself back in January when this started. All right, so day one, the neighbors move in, you smell smoke. This is what you do. You're gonna go to Amazon or you're gonna go to Target, and you're gonna purchase multiples, because you're gonna need to stock up, of either the Lysol air sanitizer or the ozone air sanitizer. Both work the same, they just have different scents to them. The ozone original smells more to me like a citrus, kind of lemony. It reminds me of like a kitchen or a cleaner scent. And then the Lysol has like 6 different scents, so you can choose different ones there. This one is simple fresh scent. They have crisp linen, they have lavender, they have a bunch of them. So personally, I like the Lysol better, but the ozone works just as good. I would buy several cans of this, place them around your apartment so that you can spray whenever the smoke gets bad. This actually helps like remove the smoke smell from that area for a good hour or 2, which is going to save your sanity as you work on the next steps. Depending on your budget, your next step is going to be to go to Amazon and purchase some ozone machines and purchase an air purifier. This is really going to depend on your budget, and it's going to depend on the size of your apartment. We live in a 1-bedroom. It's about 700 square feet. We have an air purifier in the bedroom. We had an air purifier in like the living room kind of area. Like I said earlier in the video, the bedroom, which is actually our office, was the best. Like out of all the rooms, there's barely any smoke smell in there, so we didn't add an air purifier to that room. We just had the little ozone machines. I actually have an Amazon storefront with a list that is just nasty neighbors, where I have everything listed out for you. If you want to go ahead and have everything there, it's easy, it's clickable, you can get what you need. If you do purchase through my storefront, I do get like a single-digit commission off of that sale. So yes, I would go ahead and recommend you pick up one of these ozone machines and then an air purifier. If you're on a budget, I think the Levoit air purifier is fantastic. It's got cheaper filter refills, and they actually specifically sell a smoke filter refill that works amazingly. If you have a little bit more room in your budget, you could pick up the Dyson one. We already had this one and we've had it for close to 10 years now. It works great. I love it because it's so easy to clean and it works really, really well as a heater and as just cool air and as an air purifier. So we already had that one. We just bought another. We bought another, the Levoits. So you're going to keep using your air sanitizer sprays until those things come in, and hopefully at that point in time, you'll have a better idea of where like the source of the smell, the source of the smoke getting into your unit is. And that's where you're going to want to put your air purifiers and your ozone machines. Next, you're going to want to go over your lease with a fine tooth comb. See what it says about smoking, if it says anything. Look up everything. I actually would really recommend take your lease document, upload it to ChatGPT, and ask ChatGPT, what does the lease say about smoking? How do I go about doing a complaint? That way you don't actually have to go through everything line by line like I did. You can just throw it in the ChatGPT and have it do it for you. Depending on what your lease says, you can either begin to start complaining to your leasing office or your management office, or if they allow smoking in the unit, you'll have to do what you can to live with it until your lease is up. Obviously, you could break your lease and move out, but these recommendations are more so for the people that live in high cost of living areas, and it would cost several thousands of dollars to break a lease, so all these recommendations are cheaper than breaking a lease and moving immediately. After you review your lease, start documenting everything. I literally have a Google Doc, and I have dates, and I have pictures, and I have timestamps, and I've documented absolutely everything. Every time I called the office, after you call, if you talk to anyone on the phone, always follow up with an email, get that shit in writing, and then take those emails, back them up. Got them in the document, got them in the cloud, got them in your email. Make sure it's just a document that you're keeping track of. Every time you get an update, every time you see anything, document it. That's gonna be really important later on if this has to go any further, if you have to go to small claims court, or if you need to prove to management or higher up regional management what steps have already been taken. All right, last but not least for day number 1 is know your rights. Look up your state laws when it comes to smoking, look up your township laws, look up your county laws. I spent so much time Googling. It's probably a little bit easier now to use AI. I would recommend using Perplexity for research. It's a little bit better because it gives you sources whenever it answers your questions. But I would do some reading on your local laws, your state laws, see whether or not that smoking inside is legal or illegal. So that's like your day 1 kind of checklist right there. Week 1. I would recommend start inspecting your apartment and see if you can figure out where the smell of the smoke is like originating from. Are they downstairs neighbors? Look for gaps, cracks in your floor. Are they next door neighbors? Start checking that wall. Check underneath your doors. Make sure everything is sealed properly. Because if you can find the source of that smell, the best way to prevent that smell from getting into your home is to plug up wherever the smoke is getting in from. And I know, unfortunately, in some buildings, HVAC is connected. I know with us, our radiators are connected. So when the radiators were on, it was just like raising up that hot, smoky air into our apartment. So there wasn't a whole lot we could do there. Oh man, I've been talking for a while. So I would say start, like, I was crawling on my hands and knees around the apartment trying to see where the smell of the smoke was coming from. Is it cracks in the hardwood? Is it cracks in the tile? Is it between the baseboard and the wall? Is it between the baseboard and the floor? I'll throw in some video clips here of like what we were finding around the apartment and the worst kind of areas that we found. And they were literal just cracks in hardwood, cracks in baseboards, cracks around the radiators. If it's an old building, you're gonna see a lot of holes like that. Now, I recommend if you find these holes to temporarily like plug them, I would just get a thin towel, thin washcloth, get it damp, roll it up into like a little cannoli kind of thing and shove it into the hole. It's a great temporary plug. Now from there, you can do 2 things. You can, 1, put in a ticket with your maintenance to get them to come in and seal up all those holes. Or you could buy some silicone caulking, some regular caulking, whatever you want to do, and you plug them up yourselves. We did a little bit of both. So we called maintenance to come in and do the stairs because it seemed like that was like the biggest kind of hole that we could find. Like there were actual gaps in between the treads because the building is so old. And they came in and they just used clear silicone caulk and did it right across the base. Unfortunately, the building is so old and it resettles so often that it kept it did kind of separate again. So that's where we put a big ozone machine in our incense to kind of cover that up. But since we saw what they used to seal up the hole, we went out and bought some ourselves, and we did the rest of the sealing ourselves. So we sealed mainly under the radiators, because there were like big gaps between the radiators and the floorboards and the ground where we could like look right down into the apartment. It was kind of nuts, right into the subfloor or whatever. I would also say if you're on a budget and you can't buy any caulking like that, hot glue is a pretty good affordable alternative. It's also pretty good because you could like scrape off the hot glue. It doesn't damage the hardwood, it doesn't damage your walls or anything. So if you want to use it temporarily and then before you move out, clean it all up, we did that as well. Another good option is if like in the bathroom you have a bad smell, and it could be similar where it's like all the caulking in between the tiles like ours, you could put down peel and stick tile, seal that up. Okay, so also by the end of the first week, you should hopefully get in all of your Amazon orders with all of your air purifiers, your filters and everything. Get all of those set up, get a fan, get your airflow going, because that's really going to help you. Now from week 2 and beyond, that's when you start looking into solutions. How much longer do you have left in your lease? Ultimately, you're probably going to have to switch units or move out. Talk to your leasing office, see if they'll switch you to another unit and keep your same lease. With ours, if we were going to move units, they were going to make us sign a new lease, so they were going to jack our rent up a couple $100s, and we'd have to pay $500 for the privilege of moving to a new unit. So that's why we didn't do that. We decided to just save our money, save every penny, and then move out as soon as we could to a better apartment building. You can also see if the neighbors, if they're actually like not allowed to smoke inside. If you do complain regularly to your management, they might get evicted. Ours had eviction notices posted. They had to go to court. Court sealed the records, so we could not see the result of their eviction proceedings. It could have gone either way. I know in New Jersey, if you are evicted, I think you can plead 6 months hardship, like if you could not find anywhere else to live. So if they did get evicted, they would be able to stay until October anyway. So basically the whole lease without paying anything. Isn't that wild? But if they are getting evicted, you might be able to do it temporarily until they move out. But if you know, like in our case, that the building allows smoking inside, then there's no guarantee that the next tenant wouldn't do the same thing. So hopefully all those things will be able to help tide you over until you can move. Like I said earlier, all of these things that you're buying are not cheap. Air purifiers, ozone machines, you know, sprayable ozone, but they are cheaper than moving. So I wish you the best of luck dealing with this. I personally very well know it's terrible. And I hope that the tips I was able to give you after going through this for the last 8 months help. So that is all that I have for this video. I am very much excited to move on from this apartment. It was the first apartment I was gonna say boyfriend. When we moved in here, we were just dating. We got engaged here, we got married here, we had so many milestones here, but it is very much time for us to move on. So we've been touring apartments. I'm excited. We can afford to upgrade a bit more into a much newer building, at least one built this century. Like the buildings we're in, I think were built back in like the 60s. And we're moving into a building that was built in the last 10 years minimum. Like that's what I said. It has to be this year, or at least this decade that it was built. So if you guys have ever gone through anything similar, please let me know down below, and let me know if there's any tips or tricks or anything that I missed or I failed to talk about. Please leave your recommendations down below. I'm hoping this video will be a good resource for anyone who is looking on how to just deal, because not all of us have the money to just break a lease and move. I know that's what everyone says, and that's what people told us, break the lease and move. But like I said, it would have taken like around $10,000. It would have drained our emergency fund to break a lease and move. And I know in today's economy, you know, rentals are really hard to come by, and rent is not at all affordable. I'm in North Jersey. We're paying around $2,000 in rent. When we move, we're gonna go up. We're gonna pay probably around $2,800 in rent, but it'll be a brand new building and it'll be a lot nicer than here. So thankfully we have room in our budget to do that. I've gotten promoted twice since we've moved in here, so we have that room in order, and we're grateful that we are able to do it. And unfortunately not everyone is able to deal with that or to afford that rent, because rent is insane right now. So I'm just grateful that my husband and I are able, we've gone through most of this. We only have a couple months left here, and then hopefully we can move on and not have to deal with constant ozone machines going and migraines from smoke and any other effects. Like our poor dog, like he's had to deal with the smoke and everything too, and even worse because he's closer to the ground. So I really hope it hasn't affected any of us terribly long term. I know secondhand smoke is horrible. I kind of wish she had just been smoking weed all day. That would have been fine, but no, it had to be cigarettes. That is it. That is all I have for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope the tips and my story and the tips I provided could at least help someone. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will be back soon with some actual apartment hunting vlogs, and I cannot wait for that day. So thank you guys. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.